Hello and welcome to the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. Today is Thursday, October 19th, 2023. My name's Steven Zeiner, and I'd like to point out that 2 years ago today, we were pretty much on the eve of the company shares being offered for the very first time on the stock market, right? The IPO essentially took place on October 20th, 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So typically then, like the day before, a company will sell their shares to, like a syndicate of investment banks, right? And then those investment banks will turn around and, create a market for the company shares, right? By selling those shares into the secondary market, right? Which in our case is Nasdaq, right? We trade under the ticker symbol SDIG. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow, but I wanted to acknowledge that 2 years ago today, there was a lot of anticipation, right? A lot of sort of excitement building for what would be the company's initial public offering. I might add, Stronghold Digital Mining did something a little bit different. Okay, hey, look at. There's nothing wrong with merging with a public SPAC. Okay, I'm not here to knock that. There's nothing wrong with it. But there is something that I think we can all feel pretty proud about, right? And pretty good about when you kind of walk in through the front door, right? And you go through the typical, right, traditional IPO process. I think that that's something very unique to Stronghold Digital Mining. I can't think of too many other publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies that went in through the front door. A lot of companies chose to merge with a public SPAC. Nothing wrong with that, but hey, I'm just proud of the fact we chose to walk in through the front door. Okay, with all of that said, I'd like to focus today on Scrubgrass. What is ailing our beloved Scrubgrass? I heard it once said that, power plants hate people. And there's somebody in particular who I heard utter that phrase. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that on the eve of one or two people, all right, on the engineering team at Scrubgrass deciding, hey, it's September, it's a great time to maybe take a bit of a vacation, right? Things hopefully are going to be pretty calm. Lo and behold, you walk out the door and 2 days later you find out Scrubgrass is completely offline. So I'm going to just go ahead and read verbatim from our recent Form 8K, okay? So the company, meaning Stronghold Digital Mining, experienced an unplanned outage during September 2023, right? So that's just last month, at its Scrubgrass plant that affected both its plant operations and data center operations. That's kind of a big deal. Okay, let's just stop right there for a moment. So an unplanned outage that affects both the power plant and the data center is a little bit unusual because typically if there's going to be an issue, right, that let's say affects the power plant, well then ostensibly, you have sort of the backup option of just importing electricity directly from the PJM grid to keep, right, the data center going, to keep those Bitcoin mining machines validating transactions, all right, on the Bitcoin network. That's not what happened here. The company elected to extend the outage at the plant due to low power prices in an effort to conduct additional maintenance. By the way, that's a really brilliant move. You don't necessarily want to take another outage if you don't have to. Hey, if you're sort of, offline at the moment, why not just pull all that maintenance forward and get it taken care of? So that's really smart. Okay. The data center located at the Scrubgrass plant returned to full operations after 7 days. That's, we'll get to that in a second. Importing power from the PJM grid. I'm paraphrasing a little bit there. All right. So the data center was offline for 7 days. Now, it's not entirely clear if that 7-day outage, right, at the data center had to do with the original problem that took Scrubgrass, the power plant, offline, or if there may have been like a cascading of events, right? A cascading sequence of events that might have resulted in the data center going offline. And I'll get to that in a moment as well. let's move forward. Now, I'm skipping a portion of the news release of the Form 8K that kind of talks about where our hash rate happened to have been by the end of September. I want to leave that aside for the moment and just focus kind of like on this outage issue. Okay. Early in October 2023, so remember, this unplanned outage took place in September. We don't exactly know when in September, but as of early, right, October 2023, as the outage at the Scrubgrass plant continues, PJM informed the company of its request that the company reduce its imports to 10 megawatts. I think it was like 10 to 20 megawatts, right? I'm paraphrasing a bit. For an estimated 10-day period starting on October 11th, 2023, in order to perform transmission line work in the area. Okay, so basically, we have what probably, conservatively is easily like a 70 megawatt data center, okay, at Scrubgrass. So if you're operating a 70 megawatt data center based on importing electricity from the PJM grid, it basically means you're having to import about 70 megawatts of electricity. To be told, right, by PJM, hey, by the way, can you trim that down to 10 megawatts, maybe 20 megawatts for a 10-day period of time? That's definitely going to mean that a significant portion of the data center is going to be offline. And, it is what it is. Now, but let's continue, though. All right, so the company, meaning Stronghold, intends to cooperate with the PJM import directive, meaning, hey, they're directing us to, limit our imports to, say, 10 to 20 megawatts. Okay, great, we're going to do that. The company plans to start the Scrubgrass plant imminently in order to resume full data center output while minimizing the impact of the PJM import directive. So again, that's another very important move. To the extent you can't import all the electricity you need from the PJM grid, hey, isn't it kind of convenient to have a waste coal reclamation facility right there in the form of Scrubgrass, the power plant, all right? Because remember, the byproduct of the waste coal remediation work is electricity and beneficial use ash. The electricity, of course, can either then be sold back to the PJM grid, not really back to them because we're creating it, but sold to the PJM grid, or alternatively used internally to power our data center, right? That's located at Scrubgrass. So that conveniently is what is going to be taking place, if not right now as I'm creating this broadcast, then very, very soon, I would imagine. Okay. So what does this mean, and is there any context in which we can kind of look at this and, kind of try to make sense out of what happened? And arguably, there sort of is, okay? Back in June of 2022, there was an unplanned outage at Panther Creek. And I'm going to read now, again, this is, pretty much right from the 8K filing back in 2022. It's paraphrased a little bit, okay? Stronghold Digital Mining's Panther Creek power plant experienced approximately 8.5 days of unplanned downtime in the month of June. On June 8th, 2022, a storm caused a tree to fall on a transmission line, causing a 2-day outage. Okay, hey, 2 days, not so bad. But remember how I talked about like a cascading sequence of events? Check this out. Following the transmission line repair, the outage was extended by an additional 2 days due to a third-party maintenance issue on a breaker coil that was repaired by June 11th. Okay, so all of a sudden, now there's something else that came up. On June 13th, Panther Creek experienced additional downtime as a result of a steam valve issue that caused Panther Creek to trip offline. The steam valve issue was resolved on June 16th. So the original issue, right, was on June 8th. A storm caused a tree to fall on a transmission line, okay? Fast forward to June 16th, you're finally, it's kind of like trying to get back online as a result of other issues that came up. I mean, was it because of the tree? Who knows? Would any of those other things have necessarily happened if not for that original tree falling on a transmission line? We're never going to really know, but I do think it's somewhat interesting that you have a kind of significant issue that occurs. A tree falling on a transmission line, that kind of is a really big deal. And then you have all these other issues that keep Panther Creek offline. So let's apply that logic, right, or that type of sort of like, story line, so to speak, to Scrubgrass. Could it be that we had a situation at Scrubgrass in September that was relatively minimal, but, lo and behold, something else comes up. You get that thing fixed, then something else comes up. And then you decide, hey, let's just pull a bunch of maintenance forward, which makes a lot of sense to do. And, lo and behold, you have then multiple days where Scrubgrass, the power plant's offline. Now, the data center, that was offline for 7 days. It comes back online, and then not that long after coming online, you get this PJM import directive asking Scrubgrass to please limit electricity imports to about 10 to maybe 20 megawatts of electricity when you've got a 70 megawatt data center. So these things happen. Now, I did think to myself, is it possible? I mean, this is wildly speculative, to the point where I'm almost a little bit reluctant to share this hypothetical because it's kind of out there. But what if we look at this from a positive perspective? What if there's a little bit of, kind of, hey, we don't want to show our full hand of cards, right away here. What if, when we think of the term unplanned downtime, let's say I'm sitting at Scrubgrass and I know that there's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes to see if we could get ourselves set up with a carbon capture, right? A CO2 capture system, which perhaps might then work in conjunction with our beneficial use ash to create a really cool, like supplementary cementitious material, which is going to give Stronghold Digital Mining this amazing potential new source of revenue. Okay, this is like a positive hypothetical, all right? So that's being worked on in the background, but you don't really know much else. So you're sitting there at your desk one day, and you get a phone call, and it's like, hey, this is the moment. The different teams are going to be coming in. They're going to be installing some of this equipment, and so hey, look, we weren't planning for this in the sense that it wasn't officially on the calendar. We kind of knew that this might be a possibility, but it wasn't really planned ahead of time. But hey, this is the moment. It's going to start happening. This is when they've got a window to come in and do the work. Hey, arguably that can qualify as unplanned, right? I wasn't planning for it, but it happened. And suddenly now the data center's offline, the power plant's offline because they're doing maybe some really significant modification work to Scrubgrass, right? To get these CO2, sequestration systems in place, to maybe have some additional equipment put in to work with the beneficial use ash. Again, this is highly speculative. I think we probably would have heard something directly in this Form 8K saying, hey, great news, this is what's going on. I don't know that you would, right, that you would actually install a system like that and then down the road make the announcement. But I just wanted to be transparent that I'm thinking about that. That's something that I know is being worked on. So the optimist in me thought, hey, what if this situation at Scrubgrass isn't necessarily about, hey, a couple things broke down, we got to fix something, maybe we got to pull a boiler out, put a fresh one in. Remember, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's really, you think of these circulating fluidized bed boilers. I mean, the stuff going down, like that ash going down the side of the boiler, I mean, it's like a sandblaster in there. These boilers can and do wear out, right? And when that happens, it's, there's going to be some downtime. But hey, the other way to look at it too is that, hey, maybe there was something else going on that's very positive for potential new revenue, positive in the sense that it helps the environment, right? I'm looking forward to potentially hearing down the road, again, no one's holding their breath on this, but it's on the radar. It's been talked about in past investor presentations. Will there be an announcement at some point regarding CO2 sequestration, and potentially the use of that CO2 in conjunction with our beneficial use ash, maybe using technology from a company. I've mentioned this company before, maybe like carbon upcycling, maybe, Scrubgrass, for example, can be a place where that technology is put to use. And the company really starts generating some very, very interesting revenue as a result of the tax credits, not to mention, any revenue that comes from this SCM, right? This supplementary cementitious material that we be creating. So I have a picture here of, Scrubgrass. I've shared this before. My big concern generally tends to be, are these purpose-built facilities okay? I don't worry so much about the stock price. I don't worry so much about, what somebody on Wall Street's saying or anything like that. I do tend to be a bit more concerned about the health and wellness of these facilities. And so when I saw that Scrubgrass was offline, there were some issues, it does cause a little bit of a moment of reflection. We're like, okay, Scrubgrass, hopefully you're going to be okay. Get you back online soon. It looks like imminently Scrubgrass, in fact, will be back online, not only with the issues that arose having been repaired, but it definitely sounds like a lot of maintenance, as I mentioned before. Hey, let's pull that forward. Let's take care of that now. The plant's offline. To cycle a plant, to turn it off, to then turn it back on, they do not cycle well, I'm told, right? So it's best, hey, if it's going to be offline, let's pull all that maintenance work forward, get it done, which it looks like we've done. So I'm really, really pleased by that. So I think, I think at the end of the day, we don't have a lot of specifics as to what happened to Scrubgrass, but, I gave you a positive hypothetical. The negative hypothetical, it's not even that negative. It's like, hey, look, something came up similar to what happened at Panther Creek in June of 2022. An issue arose. You had to deal with the issue, maybe a couple other, right, other issues, right, kind of cascaded forward. All right, so be it. Then the company decided, as I said, let's pull that maintenance work forward. It got done. So I'm very much looking forward to Scrubgrass being back online if it is not already online, which I think is very, very good news. Okay, with all of that said, let's stay positive. Let's continue to be great. And we're going to see each other again here tomorrow.